So what exactly is managed mobility? I mean, again, it's agencies are being challenged in terms of how devices interact with their infrastructure. I mean, previously, there used to be a clear delineation on that which is telecommunications and that which is information technology. Well, with the emergence of smartphone technology, any sort of delineation of those two terms or any delineation of those two concepts is completely out the window now. With mobile devices, with tablet computers, with smart tablets, you see the interaction now, or you see that common point where IT and telecom meet. And so the real challenge with mobile device management or managed mobility is to ensure that the data is secure, to ensure that how those devices interact with your infrastructure is done so in a way that maintains the security posture and the security threshold that each agency has. There are cloud components to it. There's many ways that agencies are able to solve the MDM puzzle. Whether it's cloud, whether it's an on-prem, but it really is the interaction of your infrastructure, the devices, and your wireless contracts. Pardon me. Again, we worked with the federal CIO who challenged GSA through the Digital Government Strategy, item number 5.5, to develop a mobile device management program for the federal government. Now, we worked very, very closely with that same team that was responsible for identifying the security posture associated with mobile device management and mobile application management. They were the same group that vetted all of our requirements, and what we made sure to do is ensure that those requirements were the functional expression of what they were doing for their security baseline. The security baseline is taking out those controls that are a part of NIST document 853 that talks about security in a holistic infrastructure sense. Right? They extracted those controls that relate to mobile device management and mobile application management, and our requirements document is the functional expression of what it is that they've done. We worked with too many agencies to mention, but many of these that you see on your screen are examples, and all of these agencies were represented by either CIOs or Chief Information Security Officers or IT Program Officers, and some contracts officers as well, to ensure that what we were putting together, A, reflected what is needed for a comprehensive functional expression of mobile device management and application management, and B, was presented and offered in a way that would be helpful to COs so that they could more readily expedite the procurement of MDM. To procure devices and to use smart devices without the ability to manage or at least monitor what's happening on those device operating systems to ensure that your data is secure is a unjustifiable risk. The requirements document that you see on our website has 206 functional requirements in there, and again, these requirements were vetted by this 5.5 working group. So some of the things that we were looking at within each of these solutions was the ability for them to have some sort of an authorization or be authorized to run in a federal infrastructure at a moderate impact level. So they were FISMA moderate. PIPS 140-2 cryptographic validation. We're able to secure mobile application delivery, and obviously the secure baseline is what we talked about as well. After we came up with these requirements, after the working group that we were with sort of blessed the requirements as we had written and ensured that they matched what that security baseline was, in January, we went out to industry and we asked for responses. Industry offered responses to that requirements document towards the end of March, and we, along with our friends at these other agencies, assessed each of these responses, and we indicated which responses, we indicated those solutions that have been identified as a potential source of supply for an agency to procure their MDM from. And then once we identified those sources, we mapped the ability to procure those solutions and those sources through existing government-wide vehicles. We did not create a contract. This managed mobility program is not a contract, but it is a potential source of supply list that had been vetted against the requirements. Those sources of supply are those that we determine meet the greatest governmental need as measured as their responses were measured against those requirements, and the ability to procure those devices are consistent with the executive order that asked agencies not to reinvent the wheel in terms of procurement vehicles. We did not want to create a standalone contract for a number of reasons. Number one, the technology is still relatively immature. What we came out with in terms of, I should say, what vendors had proposed in terms of their responses and their solutions, they have already added functionality beyond what it is that they were able to provide for us back in March. And that's really only a short 3-4 month window. The functional development in terms of the private sector is rapidly evolving. We did not want to create a contract that didn't reflect where federal security policy was, or even to capture the use policy that is still being implemented by the federal government. So rather than creating a contract, we measured or assessed responses against the requirements document and mapped the ability for agencies to procure them through existing government-wide vehicles. Now we've identified 4 sources of supply. If you go onto our website, thank you. If you go onto our website, you'll see that Afaria, AirWatch, Good, and Mass 360 were 4 of those sources. We have links in our website and within those documents that can take you to their product demos, as well as the different acquisition vehicles available for you. We also identify 5 integrators, Accenture, AT&T, CACI, CSC, and HP. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that because things are evolving rapidly, agencies may not want to just sort of identify a source through what we provide for you. You're still going to have to do some market research and look and see what else is out there. We're very comfortable with the ability of these vendors. Other vendors or other solution providers may have not responded to what we had, and still others may have developed functionality that now allows them to play in the mobility space in the federal government. So on the right-hand side of our potential sources, you'll see some budgetary pricing. Now, I want to caveat this because I'm going to be changing some of that. You'll notice that there is a price differential. What I attempted to do with this was to capture the pricing that's available on existing government-wide, through GSA Advantage, through NASA SOUP. Some of this pricing only reflects the MDM per device license, whereas others, include the per device price as well as the infrastructure backbone that's required in order to run it. Now, I'm going back to each of these vendors and asking them to provide me that pricing information, or at least their suggested retail price for the comprehensive solution, and have it include the back end system that's needed as well. So that's subject to change, but I am aware of it, and if anybody out there has questions in terms of in terms of pricing, please feel free to reach out to me and reach out to my team, and we'll be more than happy to talk one-on-one in terms of what that pricing constitutes, and how agencies can use this information to put together their own cost estimates. Again, there were 206 functional requirements. We measured these solutions against these requirements. We measured these solutions in terms of past performance. The past performance that we included in this were any federal deployment and any like deployment within either a state entity or a like large private sector. I mean, if MDM was deployed on a large scale within a financial industry or banking industry or healthcare industry, you know, we certainly wanted to capture that, and the security postures of each of those industries are may not be identical to the federal government, but they are pretty robust. So we were cognizant of that and would include that, and also just the ability to be accessed and reached through existing government-wide vehicles were the criteria that we used. Now, as you are looking at procuring MDM, there are many ways that and many considerations that you need in order to sort of skin this mobility cat. Some of the technical considerations that you need to make is for example, whether or not a cloud-based version or a on-prem version is something that is required by your security posture. Different platforms have different capabilities, and so being cognizant of what are those features that are most important to you, and making sure that the ability to control certain device functions is doable through a mobile device. What do I mean by that? If you have a requirement where you need to control the camera, if you control the camera, control the microphone, control certain device features to capture text data. There's a number of different uses of mobile devices, and you're going to have to take a look and see what your agency personnel is going to be using them for. I'm sort of on the main page. We link to a lot of the information developed by that 9.1 team, and some of that is just the case for managed mobility within your agency as well. And they actually do a very good job of walking through all the different questions and considerations an agency needs to make in terms of not only implementing a mobility strategy, but also making sure that your strategy is consistent with your security posture, and a number of different considerations you need with that.